Two distinct tribes exist in our world. One craves a devoted follower who obeys commands, bursts through doors with unstoppable enthusiasm, and places them on an emotional pedestal. The other prefers a self-sufficient cohabitant who monitors them quietly from elevated surfaces, unimpressed, perceptive, and utterly indifferent to validation. Welcome to the intricate, frequently misjudged, and scientifically compelling psychology of those who choose cats. For generations, mainstream narratives have flattened cat enthusiasts into stereotypes. The eccentric hoarder surrounded by felines, the solitary introvert, the mysterious antagonist petting a pristine white cat. But these images never captured truth. They reflected society's unease with individuals who don't demonstrate connection through conventional channels. Because research reveals something completely different. Your preference isn't accidental. It isn't merely quirky. And it definitely isn't about rejecting human bonds. It's an indicator, a neurological and emotional signature that exposes how you experience feelings, manage tension, understand independence, and how your physiology pursues equilibrium. Those who love cats aren't attracted to submission. They're attracted to mutual existence. They don't require continuous validation. They want companionship without obligation. They don't need worship. They need nervous system balance. Today, we're not celebrating adorable kittens. We're deciphering what your feline preference silently communicates about your inner architecture. We'll examine the psychological characteristics distinguishing cat enthusiasts from dog enthusiasts. We'll investigate the biological mechanism that transforms a predator into perceived family. And yes, we'll address the disturbing hypothesis suggesting your connection to cats might have external influences. So the real question isn't whether cats appeal to you. The question is what drives that appeal. This is the psychology of cat lovers. Popular media has consistently struggled with people who don't externalize emotions dramatically. So it transformed cat enthusiasts into punchlines. The obsessive collector, the emotionally distant academic, the silent antagonist observing reality from a removed position. But these caricatures didn't emerge from scientific inquiry. They emerged from cultural discomfort. Contemporary society celebrates visibility. Expressiveness, high energy, perpetual availability, and emotional transparency are treated as markers of psychological wellness or social competence. Anyone deviating from this standard gets quickly classified as isolated, peculiar, or socially impaired. Cat enthusiasts disrupt this framework. They don't advertise their emotional landscape. They don't require constant exchanges to maintain connection. And they don't mistake activity for genuine intimacy. This makes them vulnerable to misinterpretation in a culture that conflates visibility with emotional health. But psychological research reveals something crucial. The lack of continuous outward expression doesn't indicate emotional emptiness. It indicates regulation. Many cat enthusiasts possess remarkable observational abilities. They detect subtle variations in vocal tone, physical positioning, and atmospheric tension. They might communicate less, but they perceive more. And because they don't depend on obvious signals for emotional security, they don't feel compelled to validate connection through perpetual interaction. Popular culture labeled this detachment. In reality, it's discernment. Cat enthusiasts aren't escaping connection. They're escaping unnecessary sensory input. They select environments and relationships that honor their internal tempo. And when you stop measuring relational health by volume, attention spans, or visible enthusiasm, the stereotype dissolves. What appears as distance externally is often careful selection internally. And that fundamental misunderstanding birthed the myth surrounding cat people. Psychologists frequently analyze personality through 5 fundamental dimensions: openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. The Big 5 framework. When scientists compare individuals who identify as cat enthusiasts with those preferring dogs, distinct and repeatable patterns surface. Cat enthusiasts typically score elevated on openness to experience. Technically, this indicates creativity, intellectual curiosity, and comfort navigating complexity. But experienced from within, it resembles a consciousness that resists simplistic interpretations. Cat enthusiasts gravitate toward concepts, artistic expression, emotional depth, and viewpoints that defy conventional social frameworks. They demonstrate greater willingness to sit with uncertainty, explore internal landscapes, and question established norms rather than accepting tradition without examination. They also demonstrate lower extraversion scores. This is where confusion typically begins. Reduced extraversion doesn't signal social dysfunction or disinterest in others. It means energy flows inward first. Social engagement costs more. Chaos, unpredictability, and sustained interaction depletes rather than replenishes. Cat enthusiasts may value human connection profoundly, but in concentrated doses with recovery intervals. Research additionally reveals slightly elevated neuroticism among cat enthusiasts. In psychological terms, this doesn't imply instability. It indicates sensitivity, heightened consciousness of internal conditions and environmental stimuli. Cat enthusiasts frequently register stress earlier, experience emotional fluctuations more acutely, and respond intensely to excessive stimulation. This isn't dysfunction. It's an early detection mechanism. From external observation, this interior experience remains largely invisible. Cat enthusiasts don't externalize their processing. They rarely announce when something overwhelms their system. Instead, they quietly recalibrate, pursuing calm, control, and predictability. A barking dog, chaotic social settings, or perpetual demands for attention can feel invasive to a nervous system already operating with precision sensitivity. Cats align perfectly with this psychological profile. They don't impose presence. They don't amplify energy. They move deliberately, predictably, and with transparent boundaries. For someone elevated in openness and sensitivity, that companionship feels stabilizing. So when cat enthusiasts say they simply prefer cats, what they're actually expressing is congruence between their temperament and their environment, between their interior world and the companionship style that allows optimal functioning without overload. And that interior world, quiet, layered, and deeply perceptive, remains the dimension most observers never access. Eventually, personality frameworks become insufficient explanations, because what truly separates cat enthusiasts from dog enthusiasts isn't exclusively cognitive patterns or behavioral tendencies. It's nervous system responsiveness to environmental input. Many cat enthusiasts possess highly reactive nervous systems. They register minute changes in sound, movement, emotional climate, and expectation. Their baseline isn't numbness, it's heightened awareness. And in an environment characterized by volume, velocity, and constant engagement demands, that awareness level becomes depleting. This is why framing the distinction as personality preference misses the target. What's actually occurring is physiological regulation. Some nervous systems achieve calm through frequent interaction, explicit structure, and external feedback. They regulate through activity and engagement. Dogs perfectly serve that function. They initiate contact, reflect excitement, and maintain energetic momentum. Other nervous systems regulate through stillness, through predictability, through absence of pressure. These systems don't require constant stimulation for security. They need environments that prevent overwhelm initially. Cats provide precisely that. A cat doesn't rush toward you to discharge energy. It settles into space and permits you to settle alongside it. There's no demand to respond, perform, or manage another being's emotional condition. You're permitted to arrive unchanged. This coexistence style proves especially soothing for individuals whose nervous systems spend considerable daily energy anticipating, adapting, or self-monitoring. For them, calm isn't monotony, it's restoration. And this is where many misunderstandings originate. When someone states, "I don't enjoy dogs," they're excessive. They're not rejecting connection. They're describing overstimulation. When they state, "I enjoy cats," they're peaceful. They're describing regulation. Cat enthusiasts aren't selecting distance. They're selecting environments permitting their bodies to downshift, reducing vigilance, making rest possible without complete withdrawal. Once you examine this through nervous system mechanics, the preference stops appearing eccentric or antisocial. It starts appearing adaptive. There's a reason a cat, an efficient solitary hunter, triggers almost irrational protective impulses. Your brain isn't responding to logic. It's responding to an evolutionary bypass. Researchers call it the baby schema, a constellation of visual signals evolution hardwired into humans ensuring we nurture our offspring. Large eyes proportional to face structure, rounded cranium, diminutive nose, gentle, non-threatening movement patterns. When the brain detects these characteristics, it releases caregiving impulses before conscious analysis intervenes. Domestic cats match this template remarkably well. When a cat gazes upward at you, your brain doesn't register predator. It registers vulnerable infant. The response is automatic. Warmth, protection, attunement, a subtle gravitational pull toward responsibility that feels voluntary rather than imposed. But this extends beyond surface appeal. For many cat enthusiasts, this dynamic feels secure because it's unidirectional without emotional demands. Care flows outward without expectation of constant reciprocity. The cat doesn't require cheerfulness. It doesn't need reassurance. It doesn't monitor your emotional state. This resonates especially with individuals who developed early self-regulation abilities, who learned composure, observation, and emotional containment. Offering care can feel safer than receiving it. Nurturing something that doesn't intrude permits closeness without vulnerability saturation. And cats master this equilibrium. They accept care without entitlement. They pursue closeness without consuming it. They allow caretaker roles without demanding autonomy surrender. So when you experience that instinctive pull toward a cat, it's not weakness or psychological projection. It's an ancient biological response meeting a psychological requirement for secure attachment. Your brain isn't being deceived. It's functioning exactly as designed, just in a context that feels unexpectedly appropriate. Before conscious thought, before interpretation, before emotion acquires language, there is regulation. One of cats' most powerful regulatory tools is sound. A cat's purr isn't merely pleasant ambient noise. It operates at low rhythmic frequencies the human nervous system responds to instinctively. Long before you consciously register comfort, your physiology begins slowing. Your respiration deepens. Muscular tension softens. Stress hormones begin declining. This isn't imagination. It's physiology. Low-frequency repetitive sounds signal safety to the brain. They communicate to the nervous system that nothing urgent requires attention. No action, no vigilance, no response, just presence. When a cat settles near you and purrs, your body receives that communication before cognitive analysis begins. For individuals spending substantial life energy anticipating, adjusting, or managing emotional environments, this regulation type is rare. Silence can feel hollow. Noise can feel overwhelming. But the steady rhythm of purring occupies middle ground. It fills space without invading it. That's why many cat enthusiasts describe grounding sensations difficult to articulate. They don't feel excitement. They feel settled, as if their internal pace finally matched external reality. This is co-regulation without conversation, comfort without performance. And once your nervous system learns that a particular presence consistently restores balance, attachment follows naturally, not because you decided to bond, but because your body already has. Long before conscious realization, the regulation has completed its work. For many cat enthusiasts, the connection they experience with cats isn't merely calming. It's secure in ways human relationships frequently aren't. To understand why, examine attachment and consent. Human relationships contain unspoken requirements, expectations to respond quickly, explain feelings, provide reassurance, match emotional energy. Even affection carries pressure. Why aren't you more demonstrative? Why don't you need me as I need you? For individuals who are sensitive, observant, or easily overstimulated, this continuous negotiation becomes exhausting. Cats don't operate this way. A cat never assumes access to you. This affection is offered, not demanded. When it chooses proximity or lap occupation, it does so without requiring conversation, eye contact, or emotional demonstration. And when it departs, it doesn't require explanation. This mutual boundary respect creates something rare, connection without invasion. Psychologically, this aligns closely with how cat enthusiasts experience attachment. Many aren't avoidant of intimacy, but they avoid pressure. They want closeness unfolding organically without urgency or obligation. Cats model exactly that. They teach through behavior that attachment doesn't require constant validation. Consent is fundamental to this dynamic. With cats, affection must be earned and maintained through attunement. You learn reading subtle signals. Tail movement, posture shifts, breathing changes. You adjust accordingly. Over time, this builds relationships rooted in respect rather than control. For individuals who've experienced boundary violations, emotional, psychological, or relational, this matters profoundly. Cats feel safer because they don't violate boundaries by default. They don't test loyalty. They don't take emotional proximity for granted. When a cat selects you, the connection feels authentic, not obligatory, not transactional. And that chosen affection carries particular significance. It confirms something many cat enthusiasts intuitively value: that love means more when voluntary, that closeness deepens when permitted to breathe, and that safety isn't found in intensity. It's found in mutual consent. In a world where relationships frequently demand more than they provide, cats offer a quiet reminder. Connection doesn't have to tax your nervous system to be genuine. At this juncture, there's an uncomfortable question we cannot avoid. What if your attachment to cats isn't entirely voluntary? There's a microscopic parasite called Toxoplasma gondii. It infects most warm-blooded animals, but reproduces exclusively inside cats. To survive, it must return there. And in animals like rodents, it accomplishes this by modifying the brain, eliminating fear, increasing attraction to cat scent, quietly redirecting behavior toward its survival. Humans can harbor it too. A substantial population percentage does. For years, it was considered harmless in healthy adults. But emerging research suggests it may subtly influence human behavior, reducing reaction times, increasing risk acceptance, and modifying emotional responses. The most controversial proposition is that it could diminish cat aversion or even amplify affection toward them. The science remains debated. No serious researcher claims it controls complex human love or personality. But the question it raises is unsettling. How much of what we experience is purely psychological and how much receives biological nudges? If a biological influence makes something feel comforting, does that comfort become less authentic? This theory disturbs us because it challenges agency concepts, but it also reveals something honest. Humans aren't purely rational entities. We are ecosystems shaped by chemistry, history, and instinct. So whether your connection with cats is driven by oxytocin, neural regulation, or a microscopic passenger, the experience remains identical. Your nervous system achieves safety, and sometimes that's the only truth requiring acknowledgement. Cat enthusiasts are frequently characterized as intelligent, analytical, or creative. And while research has identified correlations between cat ownership and elevated education levels, the more significant factor isn't intelligence itself. It's how their minds function when undisturbed. Many deep thinking forms require uninterrupted attention. Reflection, creativity, problem-solving, and emotional processing all depend on extended mental quiet periods. For individuals wired this way, constant interruption doesn't merely distract, it fractures cognition. Cats don't interrupt. They coexist alongside focus without demanding it. They don't pull attention externally or require ongoing engagement. Their presence occupies space without fragmenting it, allowing thought to deepen rather than scatter. This is why numerous writers, artists, and thinkers have gravitated toward cats. Not because cats enhance intelligence, but because they protect the conditions intelligence requires to function. Solitude in this context isn't isolation. It's cognitive freedom. Modern culture frequently treats solitude as something requiring correction. Quiet gets framed as loneliness, stillness as avoidance. But for many cat enthusiasts, quiet is where clarity emerges. It's where emotions organize themselves. It's where ideas mature instead of evaporating under noise. Choosing quieter existence doesn't mean rejecting others. It means rejecting unnecessary interference. Cat enthusiasts aren't withdrawing from the world. They're curating it. And cats, with their minimal demands and intuitive space respect, integrate seamlessly into that choice. They validate something society rarely does: the right to exist at your own internal pace, to think slowly, to feel deeply, to exist without constant commentary. In that sense, loving cats isn't an intelligence marker. It's a values declaration, a commitment to depth over distraction. So perhaps this was never truly about cats. Perhaps it was about the nervous system you possess and the world where it achieves optimal safety. If you're drawn to cats, it doesn't indicate distance, coldness, or disconnection. It means you're designed for subtlety, for presence without pressure, for connection that doesn't demand constant output. Your system settles in environments where nothing forces you to be louder, faster, or more available than you genuinely are. Cats don't require performance. They don't test loyalty. They don't confuse intensity with intimacy. They simply exist with you. And for some individuals, that quiet companionship is precisely what permits them to feel human again. So, if any portion of this exploration made you feel recognized, if it articulated something you've always sensed but never fully understood, you're not alone. This channel is a space for individuals who experience the world deeply and quietly. If you'd like to explore more of these psychological patterns, consider subscribing. And if this resonated with you, leave a comment. What do cats provide you that the world often doesn't? Thank you for watching.